Chapter 1. The Auction Block. The iron chains were cold against my wrists. I hadn't expected my life to end like this, shackled in a basement that reeked of mildew and fear, my 3-month-old daughter pressed against my chest in a makeshift sling I'd fashioned from my torn dress. Lily's tiny fingers curled against my collarbone, and I felt the rapid flutter of her heartbeat through the thin fabric separating us. "Please," I whispered to the woman with dead eyes who shoved me toward the stairs. "Please, just let me leave her somewhere safe. A church, a hospital, anywhere but here." She didn't answer. She never did. The auction house loomed above us, all Gothic architecture and whispered legends. I'd heard rumors about this place when I lived in the city, back when I had an apartment and a job and a future. Back before Marcus drained my bank account and disappeared, leaving me with nothing but eviction notices and a newborn who depended on me for everything. Desperation makes you do terrible things. I'd come to Blackwater Falls looking for work, any work, and instead found myself drowning in debt to people who smiled with too many teeth. When I couldn't pay, they'd given me 2 choices: sell myself or watch Lily starve. Some choice. The stairs creaked beneath my feet as we climbed toward the sound of voices, low, masculine, thrumming with an energy that made my skin prickle. Through the crack in the doorway above, I glimpsed movement. Shadows that seemed too large, too fluid to be entirely human. "Stop it, Emma," I told myself. "You're scared and exhausted. There's no such thing as monsters." But I'd been hearing the whispers since I arrived in this mountain town. Stories about the families who controlled everything, who never seemed to age, whose eyes sometimes caught the light wrong in the darkness. About people who went into the forests and never came back. About howls that weren't quite wolf and weren't quite human. Lily stirred against me, making a small sound of protest. I pressed my lips to her downy head, breathing in her innocent scent. Milk and baby powder and the soap I'd stolen from a gas station bathroom 3 days ago. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby girl." The door opened. The auction hall was smaller than I'd expected, lined with dark wood and lit by chandeliers that cast dancing shadows across the faces of the men seated in rows before a raised platform. And they were all men. I counted at least 30. All dressed in clothes that probably cost more than I'd made in a year. All turning to look at me with expressions ranging from curiosity to hunger, to something else I couldn't quite name. Predatory interest. "Lot 47, announced the auctioneer, a thin man whose voice carried an odd accent. "Human female, age 23, healthy despite recent circumstances. And..." He paused, his eyes falling on Lily with something like distaste. "A dependent. 3 months old." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I caught fragments of conversation. Breeding age, clean bloodline, liability, each word driving a spike of terror deeper into my chest. This was wrong. This was so wrong. I'd known coming here was a mistake, but I hadn't realized how big a mistake until now, standing under the hot lights with my daughter in my arms and dozens of eyes cataloging every inch of me. Bidding starts at 5,000. 6,000. 8. The numbers rose quickly, voices calling out with casual indifference, like they were bidding on furniture instead of a human life. 2 human lives. I searched the crowd for a kind face. Someone who might show mercy, but saw only variations of the same cold assessment. Then the doors at the back of the hall opened. I felt him before I saw him, a change in the air pressure, a sudden electric charge that made every hair on my body stand on end. The other bidders shifted, some turning, some going very still in a way that reminded me of prey animals freezing before a predator. He moved through the crowd like he owned it. Tall, at least 6'4", with shoulders that strained against his black shirt and in presence that demanded attention without asking for it. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and even from the platform I could see his eyes. Amber, almost gold, too bright to be entirely natural. Those eyes locked onto mine, and the world narrowed to just that connection. My breath caught. Lily went suddenly quiet, as if she too felt the weight of his stare. 50,000, he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. Deep, rough, carrying an undertone of something that made my knees weak. Silence fell across the auction hall. "Mr. Thorne," the auctioneer said, and I heard nervousness in his tone now. "We haven't finished the standard bidding process." 100,000. The man, Thorne, didn't look away from me. For both of them. Someone in the crowd sucked in a sharp breath. The auctioneer's hand trembled as he raised his gavel. 100,000. Going once? Going twice? 150, called another voice from the crowd. I couldn't see who'd spoken, but I heard Thorne's low growl in response. And it was a growl, inhuman and warning. 200,000, Thorne said flatly. And if anyone else bids, I'll consider it a personal insult to my pack. Pack? The word echoed in my head, nonsensical but somehow exactly right. The other men had gone completely still now, some lowering their gazes in what looked like submission. The auctioneer's face had gone pale. "Sold," he said quickly, bringing the gavel down with a sharp crack. "Lot 47 to Cale Thorne of the Blackwater Pack." Thorne moved toward the platform with liquid grace, and I finally understood why the others had backed down. This close, I could see the slight points to his canines when his lips pulled back, could smell something wild and woody and dangerous emanating from his skin, could see the way shadows seemed to cling to him like darkness recognized one of its own. He reached the platform and held out his hand. "Come," he said, and it wasn't a request. I looked at his hand, large, scarred across the knuckles, capable of terrible things. Then at his face. Those amber eyes held mine, and in them I saw something unexpected. Not cruelty, but a fierce protectiveness that made no sense given the circumstances. Lily whimpered against my chest. The woman with dead eyes moved behind me, ready to push. I had no choice. I took Cale Thorne's hand and felt the world shift beneath my feet. Chapter 2. The Alpha's Territory. His hand was impossibly warm. That was the first thing I noticed as Cale Thorne led me off the platform, the heat radiating from his palm into mine, like he ran several degrees hotter than any human should. The second thing I noticed was how carefully he moved, adjusting his stride to match mine, his body angled slightly to shield me from the stares that followed us through the auction hall. "Don't look at them," he said quietly, his voice pitched for my ears alone. "Keep your eyes forward." I obeyed, mostly because I was terrified to do otherwise. Lily had gone quiet again, her small body tense against my chest. Even at 3 months old, she seemed to sense the danger humming through the air. The crowd parted as we approached, men stepping back with expressions ranging from resentment to fear. One man, younger than the others, with ice-blue eyes and a cruel mouth, didn't move fast enough. Thorne's head turned toward him with predatory precision. "Problem, Marcus?" The question was soft, deadly. The young man's face went carefully blank. "No, Alpha." Alpha. There was that word again, loaded with meaning I didn't understand. Thorne's hand tightened fractionally on mine. Then he pulled me forward, through the doors and into a hallway that smelled of old wood and something else. Something animal and musky that made my hindbrain scream warnings. "Wait!" I managed, my voice emerging smaller than I'd intended. "Where are you taking us?" He didn't slow. "Somewhere safe." Safe? A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my throat. "You just bought me like property. You and everyone else in that room were bidding on a human being. What part of this is safe? Thorn stopped so abruptly I nearly collided with his back. When he turned, his amber eyes blazed with an intensity that stole my breath. This close, I could see flecks of gold in the iris, could see how his pupils expanded and contracted like a wolf's might when catching prey. "You're right," he said, each word carefully controlled. "Nothing about this is safe. Nothing about this world is kind or fair. But I guarantee you this, whatever fate you would have suffered with any other bidder in that room would have been infinitely worse than what you'll face with me." That's not reassuring. Something flickered across his face. It might have been amusement. No, I suppose it's not. He glanced down, at Lily, and his expression softened in a way that caught me off guard. "How old?" 3 months. My arms instinctively tightened around her. "Her name is Lily." "Lily," he repeated, testing the word. Then his eyes met mine again. "And you?" "Emma. Emma Crawford." "Emma." The way he said my name felt like a caress, intimate and possessive. "I'm Cale Thorne, alpha of the Blackwater Pack, as you've probably gathered." "I don't know what that means." His jaw tightened. "You will. Soon enough." He resumed walking, pulling me along. "For now, all you need to know is that you're under my protection. No one will touch you or your daughter without going through me first." We emerged into a parking lot where a sleek black SUV waited, engine running. A man leaned against the driver's side door, shorter than Thorne but built like a boxer, with copper hair and sharp green eyes that assessed me quickly. "Boss?" he said, straightening. "Everything go according to plan?" "Define according to plan, Garrett." Thorne opened the back door, gesturing for me to climb in. Did I get what I came for? Yes. Did Marcus Whitlock try to challenge me in front of the entire gathering? Also yes. Garrett's expression darkened. "That little shit. Want me to?" "No. Let him think he's clever." Thorne waited while I settled into the leather seat, Lily still clutched against me. He moved around to the other side, sliding in beside me. Too close. The interior of the SUV suddenly felt impossibly small, filled with his presence, his heat, that wild scent that made my pulse race for reasons I didn't want to examine. Garrett got behind the wheel and pulled out of the parking lot without another word. I stared out the window as we drove through Blackwater Falls, this town that had promised me refuge and delivered me into nightmare. The streets were mostly empty at this hour, storefronts dark, mountains looming in the distance like jagged teeth against the night sky. "You're wondering why," Thorne said quietly. I turned to find him watching me, his expression unreadable. "Why what?" "Why I bid on you. Why I paid so much. Why I'm bringing you to my home instead of—" He trailed off, jaw working. "Instead of what? Using me for whatever sick purpose people buy humans for in this town?" The words came out sharper than I'd intended, laced with all the fear and anger I'd been swallowing for weeks. Something flashed in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or guilt. This town has rules that predate modern law. Old rules. Supernatural rules. When you came here owing debts you couldn't pay, you became subject to those rules. The auction was... He exhaled roughly. It was going to happen whether I interfered or not. "So you're what, my savior?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "Should I be grateful you bought me before someone else could?" "No." The single word carried weight. "You should be angry, furious. This is wrong, and I know it. But I also know what the others would have done to you, to her." His gaze dropped to Lily again, and his hands curled into fists against his thighs. I couldn't let that happen. "Why?" The question emerged as barely a whisper. "Why do you care?" Cale Thorne turned to face me fully, and in the passing streetlights, I saw his eyes flash. Not amber anymore, but pure molten gold. Inhuman. Impossible. Because, he said, his voice dropping to a rough growl that vibrated through my bones. From the moment I walked into that hall and caught your scent, every instinct I have has been screaming that you're mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. Mine. The word hung between us, heavy with implications I wasn't ready to face. I don't understand, I whispered. I know. His hand lifted, hovering near my face but not quite touching, like he was afraid he might break me. But you will. I promise you that. Lily stirred against my chest, her tiny hand reaching out toward the strange man beside us. And God help me. Something in my chest pulled tight when Kale's expression melted into something tender as he let her tiny fingers wrap around one of his. We drove into the darkness, toward whatever fate awaited us in the mountains. Chapter 3. The house in the woods. The Thorn estate wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined something cold and fortress-like, all stone walls and iron gates designed to keep the world out. Instead, the SUV wound up a mountain road lined with towering pines until we reached a sprawling lodge built into the hillside, all natural wood and floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the moonlight. Warm light glowed from inside, and I could see the silhouettes of people moving within. You live here? I asked, unable to mask my surprise. The main house belongs to the pack, Kyle explained as Garrett pulled into a circular driveway. But you won't be staying there. Too many questions, too much noise for... He glanced at Lily, who'd finally fallen asleep during the drive. For a baby. My personal cabin is a quarter-mile up the mountain. Private. The word sent a chill down my spine. Private could mean safe. It could also mean isolated, with no one to hear me scream. Kale must have sensed my fear because his jaw tightened. Garrett will be in the guest room. You won't be alone with me unless you choose to be. Boss, Garrett said from the front seat, his tone careful. The pack's going to want to meet her. You know how they get about. Tomorrow. Kale's voice carried an edge of command. She's exhausted. The child needs rest. It can wait until tomorrow. Garrett nodded, though I saw concern flicker across his face in the rearview mirror. We drove past the main lodge, following a narrower path that wound deeper into the forest. Trees pressed close on either side, their branches forming a canopy that blocked out the stars. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to grab Lily and disappear into the woods, but I was so tired. Bone-deep exhausted in a way that made even thinking difficult. And there was nowhere to run. No money, no car, no one in this town who would help me. I'd learned that lesson already. The cabin emerged from the darkness like something out of a fairy tale. Smaller than the main lodge, but beautifully crafted, with a wide porch and smoke curling from a stone chimney. Light spilled from the windows, golden and inviting. Someone's been here, I said, noting the fresh tire tracks in the dirt. I called ahead, Kyle said. Had them prepare a room, stock the kitchen. You'll have everything you need. He climbed out first, then came around to open my door, offering his hand again. I hesitated, staring at those scarred knuckles, that too warm skin. Taking his hand felt like accepting something I didn't fully understand. A contract, a promise, a fate I hadn't chosen. But Lily was heavy in my arms, and my legs were shaking with fatigue. I took his hand. The interior of the cabin was even more beautiful than the exterior. All exposed beams and leather furniture. A massive stone fireplace crackling with fresh logs, thick rugs covering hardwood floors. The space smelled like pine and smoke, and that wild, woody scent that clung to Kyle's skin. First door on the right, he said, guiding me down a hallway. I had them set up a crib, but if you'd rather... A crib? I stopped in the doorway, staring at the room beyond. It was perfect. A queen-sized bed with a thick duvet, a sturdy wooden crib positioned nearby, a rocking chair by the window, Someone had even left a basket of baby supplies on the dresser. Diapers, wipes, formula, bottles. More than I'd been able to afford in weeks. My throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" Kyle stood in the doorway, too large for the frame, his shadow stretching across the floor. "I told you. You're under my protection now." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I can give you tonight." He dragged a hand through his dark hair, and I saw fatigue in the lines around his eyes. "Get some rest, Emma. We'll talk in the morning." He started to leave, but something made me call out, "Cale?" He turned, those amber eyes finding mine in the dim light. "Thank you," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "For the room, for Lily's things, for not being worse." Something painful crossed his face. "Don't thank me yet. You don't know what you've gotten into." He closed the door softly behind him, leaving me alone with my sleeping daughter and more questions than answers. I didn't sleep. How could I, in a stranger's house in the middle of nowhere, bought and paid for like livestock? I lay in the impossibly comfortable bed with Lily nestled in her crib beside me, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of the cabin settling, the wind in the trees, the occasional creak of footsteps from elsewhere in the house. Around 2 a.m, I heard something else, a long, mournful howl that rose from somewhere outside, echoing through the mountains. Then another answered it, and another, until the night was filled with an eerie chorus that made every hair on my body stand on end. Wolves. There were wolves out there. But even as I thought it, I knew it wasn't quite right. Those howls sounded too intelligent, too purposeful. Like a language I couldn't speak but could almost understand. Pack rules. Supernatural rules. Cale's words echoed in my memory. The way the other bitters had called him Alpha. The inhuman gold flash in his eyes. The heat of his skin. The predatory grace of his movements. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake Lily, and moved to the window. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction, dark and primeval. And there, at the edge of the tree line, I saw movement. A massive shape, too large to be a natural wolf, its eyes catching the moonlight in twin golden reflections. It stared directly at my window. My breath caught. I should have been terrified. Should have grabbed Lily and barricaded the door. But something in that creature's gaze held me frozen. Recognition, maybe, or something deeper. Something that resonated in a part of me I didn't know existed. The wolf watched me for a long moment, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. I stood at the window until dawn began to lighten the sky, my mind spinning with impossible thoughts and even more impossible truths. Whatever Cale Thorne was, whatever this place was, I was part of it now. And I had a terrible feeling that there was no going back. When Lily woke hungry and crying as pale light filtered through the curtains, I changed her and carried her out to the main room in search of supplies to make a bottle. I found Cale standing at the kitchen counter, shirtless, his back to me as he worked at the stove. My feet froze on the threshold. His back was covered in scars, long, vicious marks that looked like claw wounds, crisscrossing his skin in a pattern of old violence. And as I watched, one of the scars seemed to ripple, the skin shifting beneath as though something moved underneath. He turned, catching me staring, and his eyes flashed gold in the morning light. Chapter 4. Truths and Transformations. Kyle pulled a shirt on before I could say anything, the fabric stretching across those scarred shoulders. But I'd seen enough. Those marks weren't from any normal accident. They were too deliberate, too savage. The marks of something wild. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the breakfast bar. "I'll make her bottle." "I can do it myself." "I know you can." He was already moving, retrieving formula from the cabinet, measuring with surprising competence. "But you look like you didn't sleep, and I'm guessing Lily kept you up most of the night. He wasn't wrong. I settled onto one of the bar stools, adjusting Lily against my shoulder as she fussed. You know how to make a bottle? My sister had twins 2 years ago. He tested the temperature on his wrist. Such a human gesture from someone I was increasingly certain wasn't entirely human. I helped out when I could. The domesticity of the moment felt surreal. This man, this alpha, had bought me at an auction less than 12 hours ago, and now he was making my daughter's breakfast in a cozy kitchen while morning light streamed through the windows. It didn't fit any narrative my traumatized brain had constructed during the dark hours. He handed me the bottle, and I began feeding Lily, watching him warily as he returned to the stove. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air, making my stomach clench with hunger I'd been ignoring for days. You want to know what I am? Kyle said without turning around. My hand trembled slightly. Yes. And you're afraid of the answer. Wouldn't you be? He plated food with careful precision, bacon, eggs, toast, then slid it across the counter to me. Eat first. This conversation requires energy you don't have. I'm not hungry. His eyes met mine, and I saw something gentle there beneath the predatory intensity. Emma, when's the last time you had a real meal? And don't lie. I can hear your heartbeat spike when you're not telling the truth. Heat crept up my neck. 3 days, maybe 4. He cursed softly under his breath. Eat, please. I'll tell you everything, but I need you to take care of yourself first. There was no arguing with that tone. It carried too much genuine concern. I ate with one hand while Lily drank her bottle and tried not to moan at how good actual food tasted. Kale poured me coffee, adding cream without asking how I took it, and somehow knowing exactly the right amount. How did you... I pay attention. He leaned against the counter opposite me, his own mug cradled in those large hands. Your scent changes slightly when you're content. When you took the first sip of coffee yesterday in the car, Garrett had some in the console, you relaxed. Same amount of cream. My scent. I set down my fork, appetite suddenly gone despite the food in front of me. You talk about me like you're an animal tracking prey. Not prey. His voice dropped lower, rougher. Never prey, Emma. But yes, I experience the world differently than you do. My senses are sharper, enhanced. I can hear your heartbeat from across the room. Can smell fear, arousal, dishonesty. Can track you by scent alone if I needed to. Lily had finished her bottle. I set it aside and lifted her to my shoulder, patting her back gently. The familiar motion helped ground me. Because you're a werewolf. The word hung between us, absurd and impossible, and utterly true. Kale's expression didn't change. Yes. And everyone in that auction hall last night? Shifters. Different species, different packs, but all supernatural. This town is neutral territory, one of the few places where the old bloodlines can gather without starting wars. He took a long drink of coffee. That's why the auction exists. Humans who wander into Blackwater Falls with debts they can't pay become commodities. It's an ancient practice, one I've been trying to dismantle for years. But change comes slowly when you're fighting traditions that predate modern civilization. I thought of the way the other bidders had looked at me, the hunger in their eyes. What would they have done? If you hadn't... Don't. The word came out sharp, commanding. Kyle's knuckles went white around his mug. Don't ask me that, because the answer will give you nightmares, and I'd rather you not fear me more than you already do. I'm not afraid of you, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. His eyes snapped to mine, searching. You should be. Maybe. Lily burped softly against my shoulder, and I shifted her to my other arm. But you've had multiple chances to hurt us, and instead you've fed us, given us a safe place to sleep, treated my daughter with gentleness. Either you're playing a very long game, or you're not the monster you think you are. Something cracked in his carefully controlled expression. Vulnerability, raw and unexpected. I'm exactly the monster I think I am, Emma. I've killed. I've hunted. I've done things that would horrify you if you knew the details. Being alpha means making impossible choices, getting blood on your hands so your pack doesn't have to. Don't romanticize what I am. I'm not romanticizing anything. I met his gaze steadily, even as my pulse hammered. I'm just trying to understand why you spent $200,000 on a broke single mother and her baby. Kyle set down his mug with careful control. Come outside with me. I want to show you something. Why? Because you deserve the full truth, and some truths are easier to show than explain. He led me out to the back porch, where the forest pressed close and morning mist clung to the ground like ghostly fingers. Lily had fallen asleep again, exhausted from her early feeding, and I held her close as Cale descended the steps into the grass. Stay on the porch, he instructed, his voice carrying an edge of tension. No matter what you see, stay there. I won't hurt you, but your instincts will tell you to run. Fight them. Kyle, what are you... He pulled his shirt off in one fluid motion, revealing that scarred, muscular back. Then his hands went to his belt. Wait. Heat flooded my face. I can't shift with clothes on, he said matter-of-factly. They'll tear. Just look away if you need to. I should have looked away, should have closed my eyes or turned around. But I couldn't stop watching as he stripped efficiently, unselfconsciously, and stood naked in the morning light. His body was a weapon, all controlled power and brutal strength, marked by violence and survival. But before I could process that, before I could think or breathe or react, his form began to change. Bones cracked, skin rippled. His spine arched as his body contorted in ways that should have been impossible, that should have killed him. I heard myself gasp, heard Lily stir against me, but I couldn't look away from the transformation happening before my eyes. Where Cale Thorne had stood, a massive wolf now crouched in the grass, bigger than any natural wolf had a right to be, with fur as dark as midnight and eyes that burned molten gold. Those eyes found mine, and I saw Cale looking back at me from behind them. Chapter 5. The Bond Between Worlds. The wolf took a step toward the porch, and every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. He was massive, easily the size of a small horse, with paws that could crush bone and teeth designed for tearing flesh. The morning light caught in his dark fur, revealing subtle variations of black and deep charcoal, and those impossible golden eyes tracked my every micro-movement with predatory focus. But beneath the terror, beneath the rational fear of being so close to an apex predator, I felt something else. Recognition. The same pull I'd experienced last night when the wolf had watched me from the tree line. It had been him. Cale had been watching over us while we slept. You're beautiful, I whispered, and the words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise him. The wolf's ears flicked forward, head tilting slightly. He took another step closer, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. When he reached the porch steps, he lowered himself into a sitting position, bringing his head more level with mine. Lily stirred in my arms, making small sounds of waking. I expected her to cry at the sight of the enormous predator mere feet away. Instead, she blinked her dark eyes open, focused on the wolf, and smiled. Actually smiled. Her first real smile, the kind I'd been waiting weeks to see. My breath caught. Lily. The wolf made a soft sound, not quite a whine, but something gentler than I'd expected. He inched forward until his massive head was close enough to touch, then waited, still as stone. You want me to? I swallowed hard. To touch you? Those golden eyes held mine, and I saw the answer clearly. Yes, trust me. I won't hurt you. Slowly, my hand trembling, I reached out. My fingers made contact with his fur, and I gasped at the sensation. Softer than I'd imagined. Thick and warm and vibrating with barely contained power. Beneath my palm, I could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady. Lily reached out too, her tiny hand tangling in the dark fur. She made a happy gurgling sound, completely fearless in a way only babies could be. The wolf closed his eyes, leaning ever so slightly into the touch, and a rumble emanated from his chest. Not a growl, but something closer to a purr. Contentment. Peace. We stayed like that for several minutes, me and my daughter touching the wolf who was also a man, while the forest whispered around us and the world felt suspended between reality and dream. Then the air shimmered, and the transformation happened in reverse. Fur receding, bones reshaping, until Kale crouched naked on the porch steps, breathing hard from the exertion. I quickly averted my eyes, face burning. "Sorry," he said roughly, already pulling his jeans back on. I should have warned you better about what you'd see." "Why did you show me?" I asked, still not looking directly at him. "Because you needed to understand what you're dealing with, what I am, what my world is." Fabric rustled as he dressed. "And because I needed you to see that even in that form, I would never harm you or Lily." Now I did look at him, finding him fully clothed, his hair disheveled and skin flushed from the shift. "How often do you transform?" "Usually once a day, sometimes more if I'm stressed or the moon is full. It's not like the movies. I don't lose control, don't black out and wake up covered in blood. I'm always me, just different, stronger, more instinctual." He sat on the steps, exhaustion evident in the set of his shoulders. "The wolf is part of me, not a curse or a disease, just another aspect of who I am." Lily grabbed at my hair, yanking hard enough to make me wince. I gently extracted her fingers while processing everything I'd witnessed. Magic was real. Werewolves existed. The world was so much stranger and more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. "The scars on your back," I said quietly. "Where did they come from?" His jaw tightened. "A challenge. 3 years ago, a rival alpha tried to take my territory. We fought in wolf form. It's the traditional way to settle disputes. I won, but barely." "You killed him." "Yes." No hesitation, no remorse in that single word. It was him or me. Him or my entire pack losing their home, their safety. I did what I had to do. I should have been horrified, should have grabbed Lily and demanded he take me back to town, back to anywhere that wasn't here with this man who'd killed with his own hands, or paws. But all I felt was a strange understanding. He'd protected what was his, had done the terrible thing necessary to keep others safe. Wasn't that what I'd been trying to do when I came to Blackwater Falls? Protect Lily, even if it meant selling myself? "You said something last night?" I ventured, settling into the porch chair while Lily played with the collar of my shirt. "About your instincts. About me being yours to protect." Kale's eyes found mine, and I saw wariness there. "I did." "What did you mean?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the forest. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful, measured. "Wolves mate for life. When we find our true mate, our fated one, we know. It's instantaneous, undeniable. Every part of us recognizes them, claims them." He turned to face me fully. "The moment I walked into that auction hall and caught your scent, my wolf recognized you, knew you were mine. That's why I bid so high, why I couldn't let anyone else take you. Not because I wanted to own you, but because the thought of you in danger, in pain, was physically unbearable." The air felt too thin suddenly. "That's insane. You don't even know me." "I know. A bitter smile twisted his lips. Believe me, I know how it sounds. But that doesn't make it less true. You're my mate, Emma. Fated by forces older than either of us understand. I don't believe in fate, I whispered. Neither did I, until I met you. He stood, keeping his distance, respecting the space between us. But I'm not asking you to accept this. I'm not demanding anything from you. You're here because I couldn't let you be hurt, because I needed to keep you and Lily safe. What happens beyond that is your choice. Always your choice. Lily chose that moment to spit up on my shoulder, and the mundane reality of it broke the tension. I grabbed for a burp cloth while Cale moved instinctively to help, steadying Lily with one hand while I cleaned us both up. Our hands brushed, and electricity shot up my arm. His eyes met mine, and I saw the same awareness reflected there. This pull between us wasn't just in his head. Whatever this was, this connection, I felt it too. And that terrified me more than any werewolf transformation ever could. Chapter 6. The Pack's Judgment. The summons came before noon. Garrett appeared at the cabin door, his expression grim. They're calling an assembly. The Pack Council wants to meet her. Cale's whole body went rigid. I said tomorrow. Yeah, well, Marcus has been stirring up trouble since last night. Claims you're hiding something, that the human might be a threat. Garrett's green eyes flicked to me apologetically. They're demanding to see her now, or they're voting to override your authority on this. They can try. Cale's voice dropped to a growl that raised the hair on my arms. I'm still Alpha. For now. Garrett's words hung heavy in the air. But if you don't show up, if you don't let them meet her and verify she's not a danger, Marcus has enough allies to make this ugly. You know the old laws, boss. The Pack's safety comes first. I watched the conflict play across Cale's face. Duty warring with the protective instinct that had brought me here in the first place. Finally, he turned to me, and I saw apology in his amber eyes. I have to take you to the main lodge. The Pack needs to see you're not a threat. Not a threat? My laugh came out sharp. I'm a human woman with a baby. What threat could I possibly pose? Humans have exposed our kind before, Garrett said quietly. Brought hunters, researchers, people who want to exploit what we are. The Pack has long memories, and most of them aren't as trusting as Cale. I wouldn't tell anyone. I don't even know anyone who'd believe me. They'll need more than your word. Cale moved closer, his presence somehow both threatening and comforting. Emma, I need you to understand something. My Pack, they're not like me. Most of them were born into this life, raised with traditions that view humans as lesser, as prey or property. They're going to test you, question you, maybe try to intimidate you. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. But I need you prepared. His hand lifted like he wanted to touch me, then dropped. Stay close to me. Don't answer questions directly unless I tell you it's safe. And whatever happens, don't show fear. Wolves respect strength, even in small packages. Lily was asleep in my arms, blissfully unaware of the danger we were walking into. I looked down at her peaceful face and felt my resolve harden. I'd survived an abusive relationship, homelessness, and that horrific auction. I could survive a room full of werewolves. Fine, I said, lifting my chin. Let's get this over with. The main lodge was even more impressive up close, massive timber beams and stone walls, with carved wolves decorating the entrance. As we approached, I saw people gathered outside, at least 24 men and women of varying ages, all turning to watch us with eyes that held too much animal awareness. My steps faltered, but Cale's hand found the small of my back, steadying me. I'm right here, he murmured. They touch you. They answer to me. We entered through heavy wooden doors into a great hall that belonged in another century. A long table dominated the center, surrounded by high-backed chairs, and a massive fireplace roared at the far end. Animal pelts decorated the walls: wolf, bear, mountain lion, their glassy eyes seeming to track our movement. The pack filed in behind us, taking positions around the room. I felt their stares like physical touches, assessing, calculating. Some faces showed curiosity, others suspicion or outright hostility. An older woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp features stepped forward. Power radiated from her, different from Kale's but no less commanding. "Alpha Thorn, you've brought the human." "Elder Margot." Kale's tone was respectful but firm. "As requested, though I remind the Council that this assembly violates the 24-hour grace period traditionally granted to new acquisitions." "Traditionally?" a male voice drawled from the shadows. "We don't bring humans into pack territory at all, especially not with their spawn." Marcus Whitlock emerged into the light, the ice-eyed man from the auction, younger than Kale but carrying himself with arrogant confidence. "You paid an obscene amount for damaged goods, Alpha. The pack deserves to know why." "Watch your tongue," Kyle snarled, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You're addressing your Alpha and a guest under my protection." "A guest?" Marcus laughed, cruel and sharp. "Is that what we're calling pets now? She's property, bought and paid for. The pack has a right to know what you plan to do with her, especially since her scent is all over you." Murmurs rippled through the gathered wolves. I felt Kale tense beside me, felt the barely contained violence in the way his muscles coiled. "Enough." Elder Margot's voice cut through the tension. "The question stands, Alpha Thorn. Why this human? Why spend pack resources on a woman and child who bring us nothing but potential exposure?" Kyle was silent for a long moment, and I felt every eye in the room boring into us. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "Because she's my mate." The words hit like a physical blow. Shocked silence fell, broken only by the crackling fire and Lily's soft breathing. "Impossible," someone whispered. "A human?" another voice hissed. "Humans can't be true mates." "It's rare," Elder Margot said slowly, her sharp eyes moving between Kale and me. "But not unheard of. There are records, old stories of human mates." She stepped closer, and I forced myself not to back away. "Let me see her." Kale's arm moved around me, protective. "Carefully, Elder." Margot approached until she stood directly before me, so close I could see the gold flecks in her gray eyes. She inhaled deeply, scenting the air around me, then did something unexpected. She reached out and touched my cheek with surprisingly gentle fingers. "Interesting," she murmured. "Your scent does carry traces of him. And something else, something old." Her eyes narrowed. "What's your lineage, girl? Your family history?" I don't know. I was adopted. My birth records were sealed." "Adopted?" Margot exchanged a meaningful look with Kale. "That explains it." "Explains what?" I demanded, finding my voice. "Why you haven't run screaming," Marcus interjected, moving closer. "Why you're not cowering in terror right now. Normal humans break when exposed to our world. They fracture. But you..." His eyes traveled over me with disturbing intensity. "You're adapting. Almost like you were meant for this." "She has dormant blood," Elder Margot announced, her words dropping like stones into still water. "Somewhere in her ancestry, there's supernatural lineage. Distant, diluted, but present." She turned to address the room. "This changes things. She's not fully human. The bond is legitimate." My world tilted. "What are you talking about? I'm human. I'm just..." "You're more than you know," Kyle said quietly, his hand tightening on my waist. "And that might be the only thing that saves us both." Chapter 7. Blood Memories. The revelation hung in the air like smoke, suffocating and impossible to ignore. I want a blood test, Marcus said, his voice cutting through my shock. If she truly carries supernatural lineage, it needs to be verified. Otherwise, this could be a convenient lie to legitimize an illegal bond. Illegal? Kale's voice was dangerously soft. Are you questioning my judgment, Marcus? I'm questioning your objectivity. Marcus circled us like a predator sizing up prey. You see a pretty face? Catch a scent that appeals to your wolf, and suddenly she's your fated mate? Convenient timing, don't you think? Right when the council has been pressuring you to choose a mate from within the pack. Several heads nodded around the room. I felt the political currents shifting, saw the calculation in some faces. This wasn't just about me. It was about power, succession, ancient hierarchies I didn't understand. The blood test, Elder Margot said firmly. It will settle this. If the girl has supernatural ancestry, even dormant, it will show in her blood. Our healer can perform the ritual. No. My voice surprised everyone, including myself. You're not taking my blood without explanation. I don't even know what you're looking for, what this test involves, or what happens if you find what you're looking for, or don't. Kale's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Pride flickered in his eyes. Elder Margot's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Smart girl. The test is simple. A few drops of blood mixed with wolfsbane and silver dust. If you're purely human, nothing happens. If you carry dormant supernatural genes, the mixture will react. Glow, change color, sometimes even show visions of your ancestors. And if it doesn't react? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Then you're fully human, Marcus said with barely concealed satisfaction. Which means the bond claim is false, which means you're just property. And property can be reassigned to someone who'll make better use of you. Kale moved so fast I barely saw it, one moment standing beside me, the next with his hand wrapped around Marcus's throat, lifting him off his feet. Say that again, he snarled, his voice more wolf than man. Give me a reason. Kale! Elder Margot's command cracked like a whip. Control yourself. This is exactly the kind of behavior that concerns the council. You're letting emotion override reason. For a moment, I thought Kyle would ignore her. His hand tightened on Marcus's throat, and I saw his canines lengthening, saw his eyes flash pure gold. Marcus clawed at his arm, gasping, fear finally showing through his bravado. Then Lily whimpered in my arms, and Kale's head snapped toward the sound. The gold faded from his eyes. He released Marcus, who crumpled to the floor, coughing. The test, Kale said quietly, his gaze on Lily rather than the assembled pack. We'll do it. But the healer administers it, no one else. And Emma has the right to know the full implications before she consents. Agreed, Elder Margot said. Sienna, come forward. A young woman emerged from the crowd, maybe mid-20s, with flowing auburn hair and kind brown eyes. She carried a leather satchel and moved with the careful grace of someone used to handling delicate things. I'm Sienna, she said softly, approaching me. I'm the pack healer. I promise this won't hurt, and I'll explain everything as I go. Is that acceptable? Something about her gentle demeanor eased my terror slightly. I nodded. She led me to a side table, gesturing for me to sit. Kyle stayed close, his presence a solid wall between me and the rest of the pack. Sienna pulled out supplies, a small silver bowl, vials of various substances, a sterile needle. The wolfsbane is diluted, she explained, showing me a purple liquid. Just enough to trigger a reaction, not enough to harm. The silver dust is pure, consecrated by moonlight. And your blood? She prepared the needle. Just a few drops. May I? I extended my finger, wincing as the needle pricked my skin. 3 drops of blood fell into the silver bowl, looking impossibly red against the polished metal. Sienna added the wolf's bane, then sprinkled the silver dust over it. The room held its collective breath. For a moment, nothing happened. I felt Marcus's satisfied smirk without even looking at him, felt my future hanging in the balance of a chemical reaction. Then the blood began to glow. Soft at first, barely visible, but growing stronger. A luminescent blue that pulsed like a heartbeat. The liquid swirled without anyone touching the bowl, patterns forming and dissolving in hypnotic succession. "Holy shit!" Garrett breathed from somewhere behind us. The glow intensified, and suddenly I saw things. Flashes of images like half-remembered dreams. A woman with my eyes standing in moonlight, her skin rippling with silver light. A man with wolf features howling at stars that seemed impossibly close. Children running through ancient forests, their laughter echoing across centuries. My ancestors. I was seeing my bloodline stretching back through time. "She's not dormant," Sienna whispered, her voice filled with awe. "She's... Gods, she's latent. The blood is strong, just sleeping. Wolf heritage going back at least 3 generations, maybe more." Elder Margot leaned closer, examining the glowing mixture. The color, that particular blue, it's rare. Northern Pack bloodlines, the old royal families. Her sharp gaze fixed on me with new intensity. "Who were your birth parents, child?" "I told you, I don't know. The adoption was closed. All I have is a first name. My birth mother was called Luna." "Luna." Margot's face went pale. "What year were you born?" 1998, October 15th. "Why?" The elder exchanged loaded glances with several pack members. There was a Luna from the Silvercrest pack. She disappeared in late 97, pregnant and fleeing an arranged mating. The pack searched for her for years but found nothing. Most assumed she'd been killed by rogues. Margot's voice dropped. "If you're her daughter, that would make you..." "Royalty," Cale finished, his voice rough with shock. "The Silvercrest bloodline is one of the oldest in North America. If Emma is Luna's daughter, she's not just carrying supernatural genes. She's carrying alpha blood." The room erupted in chaos. Voices raised in disbelief, excitement, anger. Marcus looked like he'd been struck. Elder Margot was shouting for order. Garrett had his phone out, already making calls. I sat frozen, staring at the glowing blood in the silver bowl, at this impossible evidence that everything I'd thought I knew about myself was wrong. I wasn't just human. I was never just human. Emma. Cale's hand cupped my face, turning me toward him. "Breathe. Just breathe." "I don't understand," I whispered. "How is this possible? I don't feel different. I can't transform, can't do anything supernatural." "Because your wolf is sleeping," Sienna said gently. "Without pack, without others to teach you, to trigger the awakening, your supernatural side stayed dormant. But it's there. It's always been there." Lily fussed in my arms, and I looked down at her perfect tiny face. "Does this mean Lily will likely be a shifter?" Cale confirmed. "When she's old enough, her wolf will emerge. She'll need pack to guide her through it." His thumb stroked my cheekbone. "You both will." "This changes everything," Elder Margot declared, silencing the room with her authority. "A lost royal daughter, bonded to our alpha. The Silvercrest pack will want her back. They'll claim blood rights." "Let them try," Cale growled, pulling me closer. "She's mine. They abandoned her mother, left her to die alone and afraid. They don't get to reclaim her now that she's valuable." "They'll see it differently," Margot warned. "And they have allies. This could start a war." I looked around at all these strangers arguing about my fate, my identity, my future. Fear and anger warred in my chest. Then I felt it, a pulse deep inside, like a second heartbeat I'd never noticed before. Something ancient and wild stirring in response to the chaos. My wolf, waking up after 25 years of silence. and she was absolutely furious. Chapter 8. The Awakening. The pulse inside me grew stronger, spreading from my chest outward like wildfire through dry brush. My skin felt too tight, my senses suddenly overwhelming. I could hear every heartbeat in the room, smell the complex mix of emotions pouring off the gathered wolves, feel the vibrations of their voices in my bones. "Kyle," I gasped, clutching his arm. "Something's wrong." His eyes went wide. "Sienna, she's triggering." "That's impossible," the healer said, but she was already moving. "First shifts don't happen without preparation, without the full moon. She's not a normal case." Kyle swept me into his arms, Lily and all. "She spent 25 years suppressing her nature. The blood test awakened it, and now it's trying to surface all at once. We need to get her somewhere safe before—" Pain lanced through my body, sharp and white-hot. I cried out, and Lily started screaming in response to my distress. The wolves in the room backed away instinctively, giving us space, their faces showing fear mixed with fascination. "The transformation will kill her if she's not ready," Margot said urgently. "Her body doesn't know what to do. You need to stop it, Alpha. Push her wolf back down." "That could damage her permanently," Sienna protested. "So will letting her shift without training," Margot snapped. Kale ignored them both, carrying me swiftly toward a door at the back of the hall. "Garrett, take Lily. Keep her safe." "No!" I tried to hold on to my daughter, but another wave of pain made my grip falter. Garrett's hands were gentle as he lifted Lily from my arms, his expression grim. "I've got her, Emma. I promise. Let Kale help you." Kale kicked open a door to reveal a small room, empty except for thick mats on the floor and reinforced walls. A transformation room, I realized dimly. A place where shifters could change safely without destroying their surroundings or hurting others. He set me down carefully on the mats, then knelt beside me. "Emma, look at me. Focus on my voice." I tried, but everything was chaos. My vision kept blurring and sharpening, colors too bright, sounds too loud. I could hear Lily crying from the other room, and it tore at something primal inside me. My baby needed me. I had to get to her. Had to protect her. "Your wolf wants to surface to protect your daughter," Kale said, somehow reading my thoughts. "But you're fighting it because you're afraid. That conflict is tearing you apart." "I don't know how," I gasped between waves of pain. "I don't know how to let it happen." "Then don't let it happen. Not yet." His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his amber eyes. "I'm going to push your wolf back down, help you regain control. But Emma, you need to trust me completely. This is going to feel like violation, like someone reaching inside you and rearranging your soul. It will hurt. But I won't let you break. Do you trust me?" Did I? This man I'd known less than 24 hours, who'd bought me at an auction, who'd revealed impossible truths about the world and myself. Another spasm of pain answered for me. "Yes, do it." Kale's eyes flashed gold, and suddenly I felt his presence inside my mind, not thoughts or words, but pure alpha dominance, a force of will that crashed against my awakening wolf like a tidal wave. My wolf snarled and fought, resenting the intrusion, but Kale was stronger. He wrapped his power around that wild, furious part of me and pushed it down, down, deep into the recesses of my consciousness. It hurt worse than anything I'd ever experienced. Worse than childbirth. Worse than betrayal. Worse than hunger or fear. It felt like being torn in half, like losing a limb I'd just discovered I had. I screamed until my throat was raw, clawing at the mats beneath me, every muscle rigid with agony. Through it all, Kale held me, his power relentless but not cruel, forcing my wolf into submission for my own survival. Finally, mercifully, the pain began to recede. My wolf settled, not happily but safely, into a contained space inside me. I could still feel her there, pacing and growling, but no longer trying to claw her way to the surface. I collapsed against Kale's chest, shaking and drenched in sweat. His arms came around me immediately, one hand stroking my hair while the other pressed against my spine, grounding me. "You did it," he murmured. "You survived. Gods, Emma, you're stronger than you know." "Lily," I croaked. Garrett's bringing her." Right on cue, the door opened and Garrett entered, carrying my still crying daughter. The moment I had her in my arms, some of the residual panic eased. I rocked her, whispering apologies, feeling her small body gradually relax against mine. Sienna appeared in the doorway with Elder Margot behind her. The healer's face was pale but determined. "How is she?" "Stable," Kyle said, not releasing me. "But her wolf is going to keep trying to surface. She needs proper training and soon. The next full moon is in 2 weeks. If she's not ready by then..." "She will be," Margot interrupted, her expression thoughtful as she studied me. "We'll train her. The pack will train her. If she truly is Luna's daughter, if she carries Silvercrest royal blood, then she's not just your mate, Alpha. She's an asset to the entire pack." Something about the word asset made Kale's arms tighten around me protectively. "She's not a political tool." "Perhaps not," Margot conceded. "But she is a connection to one of the most powerful bloodlines in our world. The Silvercrest pack has alliances we could benefit from. If we can establish Emma's identity, prove her heritage..." "No." My voice came out stronger than I expected. All 3 of them turned to look at me. "I'm not interested in being anyone's political connection or asset or bridge to power. I didn't ask for any of this. Not the wolf, not the royal blood, not the supernatural heritage. All I wanted was to survive and keep my daughter safe." "And now?" Margot asked, her sharp eyes assessing. I looked at Kale, at this impossible man who'd bought my freedom and revealed my true nature, who'd shown me gentleness and protected me from his own pack. At Garrett, who'd held my daughter with such care. At Sienna, whose healing hands had triggered this terrifying awakening. "Now I need to learn what I am," I said slowly. "Need to understand this wolf inside me before it tears me apart. But that's for me. For Lily's future. Not for pack politics or bloodline alliances or anyone's agenda, but my own." A slow smile spread across Elder Margot's face, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her. Spoken like true royalty, perhaps Luna's daughter after all. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Training begins at dawn tomorrow. Don't be late." When we were alone, Kale, me, Lily, and Garrett hovering protectively nearby, Kale finally relaxed his grip enough to pull back and look at my face. "How do you feel?" he asked quietly. "Like my entire life was a lie," I admitted. "Like everything I thought I knew about myself just got ripped away." "Not everything." His thumb brushed my cheek. "You're still Emma. Still the fierce woman who protected her daughter even when it meant sacrificing herself. Still the person who smiled at a wolf instead of running. Your blood doesn't define you. Your choices do." I wanted to believe him. Needed to believe that despite impossible revelations and supernatural heritage, I was still somehow in control of my own destiny. But the wolf inside me stirred restlessly, and I wondered if control was just another illusion I'd been clinging to. Chapter 9. Learning to run. Dawn came too quickly. I'd spent the night at the cabin with Lily, Kale sleeping on the couch despite my protests that he should take his own bed. Every time I woke, which was often between Lily's feedings and my own restless anxiety, I could hear him breathing in the other room, could feel his presence like a warm anchor keeping me tethered to sanity. My wolf had been quiet but vigilant, pacing inside me like a caged animal learning the dimensions of its prison. When pale light finally filtered through the curtains, I found Kale already awake, making coffee in the kitchen. He'd changed into worn jeans and a dark Henley that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders, his hair still damp from a shower. "You didn't have to sleep on the couch," I said, padding into the kitchen with Lily against my shoulder. "Yes, I did." His eyes met mine, serious. "You were vulnerable last night. Needed to know you were safe. That I wasn't going to—" He stopped, jaw tightening. "Take advantage?" I finished softly. "Make you feel trapped." He poured coffee into 2 mugs, preparing mine the way I liked it without asking. "You've had enough of people taking your choices away." The consideration in that gesture, in all his gestures, kept catching me off guard. This alpha who commanded dozens of supernatural beings treated me like I was something precious rather than something owned. "What happens today?" I asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Today you meet your trainer. Margot assigned one of our best to help you learn control before the full moon." He hesitated. "It's going to be intense, Emma. Learning to shift, learning to manage 2 forms, 2 sets of instincts. It takes most wolves years to master. You have 2 weeks. No pressure then." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You'll do fine. You're stronger than you think." He glanced at Lily, who was starting to fuss. "Sienna volunteered to watch her during training sessions. She's good with children, and she'll keep Lily safe." The thought of leaving my daughter made my chest tighten, but I forced myself to nod. This was necessary. If I couldn't control my wolf, I'd be a danger to Lily and everyone else. The training grounds were located behind the main lodge, a cleared area surrounded by forest, with various obstacles and equipment scattered across packed earth. A woman waited there, lean and muscular, with black hair pulled into a severe braid and eyes the color of storm clouds. "You're late," she said flatly as we approached. "We're 5 minutes early," Kale replied, his tone mild but carrying warning. The woman's expression didn't change. "For what we need to accomplish, 5 minutes is late." She turned her attention to me, and I felt the weight of her assessment. "I'm Vera. I've trained 37 wolves through their first transformations. Most of them managed not to die or go feral. Let's see if you can join their ranks." "Vera," Kale growled. "What? You want me to coddle her? Tell her it's going to be easy and safe?" Vera circled me like a predator. "She's starting 25 years behind, Alpha. Her wolf is mature and angry, and has no idea how to integrate with her human side. If I'm gentle, if I go slow, she'll end up torn between 2 halves and belonging to neither. Is that what you want?" Kyle's hands curled into fists, but he stayed silent. "I didn't think so." Vera stopped in front of me. "Here's how this works. I'm going to push you, provoke you, make you uncomfortable. I'm going to trigger your wolf deliberately until you learn to control when and how she surfaces. It's going to hurt. You're going to hate me, but you'll survive, and you'll be stronger for it. Understood?" I met her storm gray eyes and saw no cruelty there, just brutal pragmatism. "Understood." "Good. Alpha, you can stay, but you don't interfere, no matter what." She waited for Kale's reluctant nod before continuing. "Now then. Emma, tell me what you feel when your wolf stirs." I thought about last night's agony, the sensation of something wild trying to claw its way out. Pressure, heat, like I'm going to explode from the inside out. That's your human body resisting the change, your conscious mind trying to maintain control. Vera began walking in a slow circle around me. But you can't control a wolf the way you control a human body. You have to learn to surrender, to trust your instincts instead of fighting them. How? By letting go of everything you think you know about yourself. She moved faster, her circle tightening. You think you're weak because life broke you. You think you're helpless because you couldn't protect yourself from a man's betrayal. You think you're nothing but a victim who got lucky. Each word was a barb, designed to wound. I felt anger spark in my chest. But that's human thinking, Vera continued. Your wolf doesn't know weakness, doesn't understand victimhood. Your wolf knows survival, knows ferocity, knows that you protected your cub against impossible odds. Your wolf is a predator, Emma, and it's time you started acting like one. The anger grew hotter, spreading through my limbs. I felt my wolf stirring in response, drawn by the challenge in Vera's voice. There she is, Vera said with satisfaction. I can see her in your eyes. Let her closer. Don't push her down. Let her rise just enough to feel her strength. I don't know how, I gritted out. Yes, you do. You did it last night without training. Do it now with intention. She was directly in front of me now, her face inches from mine. Stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a wolf. What does your wolf want right now? To prove this woman wrong, to show her I wasn't weak, to assert my strength, my right to exist in this space. Good, Vera breathed, though I hadn't spoken aloud. Channel that. Let it flow through you without taking over. I closed my eyes and tried to find the balance, that space between human control and wolf instinct. The pulse inside me grew stronger, but this time I didn't fight it. I let it wash through me, let it sharpen my senses and strengthen my resolve without overwhelming my consciousness. When I opened my eyes, the world looked different, clearer. Colors more vivid, sounds more distinct. I could smell Vera's wolf beneath her human scent, wild sage and mountain air. Could hear Kale's elevated heartbeat from 20 feet away, could feel the vibration of the earth beneath my feet. There you go, Vera said, and now there was approval in her voice. That's the balance. Hold it. Get used to how it feels. I stood there, suspended between two forms, two natures, feeling more alive than I ever had in my human-only existence. My wolf hummed with satisfaction, no longer fighting but flowing alongside my human awareness. How long can she maintain this? Kale asked, his voice rough with emotion I couldn't quite identify. Depends on her will. Vera stepped back, giving me space. Most new wolves can hold partial transformation for a few minutes at first. But Emma's not a new wolf. She's an old wolf finally waking up. Let's see what she's capable of. She launched herself at me without warning. Instinct took over. I moved, faster than I'd ever moved in my life, ducking under her attack and pivoting away. My senses tracked her movement, predicted her next strike, and I blocked it with a strength that shocked us both. Vera grinned, feral and fierce. Now we're getting somewhere. Chapter 10. The Breaking Point. 3 days of training had transformed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. My body was covered in bruises, purple and yellow blooms across my ribs, my shoulders, my thighs. Vera didn't believe in going easy, and I'd learned more from being thrown to the ground repeatedly than any amount of gentle instruction could have taught me. But along with the bruises came strength, speed, reflexes that felt almost supernatural even in my human form. Because I was learning to keep my wolf close to the surface, letting her enhance my human abilities without fully shifting. Better, Vera said after I'd successfully dodged a series of strikes that would have broken bones a week ago. You're starting to move like a wolf even in human skin. That's the key. Integration, not separation. I bent over, hands on my knees, gulping air. Even with supernatural stamina, Vera's training sessions were brutal. How much longer? Until the full moon. Then we see if all this work pays off. She tossed me a water bottle. Your first shift will happen whether you're ready or not. The moon calls to all wolves, compels the transformation. Question is whether you'll control it or it'll control you. The thought terrified me. I'd felt the power of my wolf trying to break free during that first night. The agony. The loss of control. If that happened during the full moon, with Lily nearby, she'll be safe, Kyle said from where he'd been watching. He never missed a training session, hovering at the edge of the clearing like a protective shadow. I'll make sure of it. You can't be with both of us, I pointed out, straightening. If I'm transforming for the first time, you'll need to be with me. And Lily will be with Sienna in a warded room at the main lodge. He moved closer, and I caught his scent, pine and earth and something uniquely him that made my wolf purr with satisfaction. Nothing gets through those wards without permission, not even me. Vera watched our interaction with shrewd eyes. The bond's strengthening. I can smell it on both of you. His scent on her skin, hers on his. You've been spending nights together. Heat flooded my face. Not like that. He sleeps on the couch. We're just in the same space. Proximity strengthens mate bonds, Vera explained, though her tone suggested she found my embarrassment amusing. Especially for newly awakened wolves. Your wolf recognizes him as mate, wants to be near him, mark him as yours. It's natural. Nothing about this feels natural, I muttered. Give it time. Vera began collecting the training equipment. Your human brain is still catching up to what your wolf already knows. Eventually, the two will align. She paused, her expression growing serious. But Emma, you need to understand something. Once you complete your first shift, once you fully accept your wolf nature, there's no going back. You'll live longer than humans, age slower, heal faster. You'll be part of this world permanently. Are you prepared for that? Was I? A week ago, I'd been a broke single mother with no prospects and no hope. Now I was supposedly descended from wolf royalty, mated to an alpha, training to transform into a creature I'd thought was myth. My entire reality had been rewritten. But when I thought about going back, about being just human again, weak and vulnerable and alone, my wolf snarled in rejection. She'd been caged for 25 years. She wasn't going back. I'm prepared, I said firmly. Vera nodded, satisfied. Good, because the Silvercrest Pack sent a representative. They'll be here tomorrow to verify your bloodline. If they confirm you're Luna's daughter. She glanced at Kyle. Politics are about to get complicated. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lily was down for the night, sleeping peacefully in her crib. The cabin was quiet except for the crackling fire and the sound of Kale moving in the kitchen. I'd told him I was going to bed, but instead I lay staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with everything that had happened, everything that was about to happen. A soft knock on my door made me sit up. Come in. Kale entered carrying 2 mugs of tea, his expression cautious. Thought you might need this. Sienna says it helps with pre-shift anxiety. I accepted the mug gratefully, inhaling the herbal scent, chamomile and something else, something earthy and calming. Can't sleep? Can't stop thinking. I took a sip, felt the warmth spread through my chest. What if the Silvercrest Pack tries to take me? Take Lily? Kale sat on the edge of my bed, careful to maintain distance despite the intimacy of the setting. They won't. Not while I'm breathing. You can't fight an entire pack, Kyle. No. But I can make it costly enough that they'll negotiate instead. His amber eyes found mine in the dim light. Emma, I know I've said this before, but you need to understand. You're not property to be traded or claimed. You have a choice. If the Silvercrest Pack offers you a place among them, offers Lily a royal upbringing, safety, status, you can take it. I won't stop you. The thought made my chest tighten painfully. You'd just let me go? If that's what you wanted. His jaw clenched. The mate bond. It's powerful, but it's not a chain. I won't trap you with supernatural obligation. Your happiness, your choice. matters more than what my wolf wants. I set down the mug with shaking hands. What does your wolf want? You know what he wants. Kale's voice dropped lower, rougher. He wants you to stay, wants to complete the bond, mark you, claim you in every way possible. Wants to protect you and Lily, build a life together, give you the pack and family you never had. He laughed bitterly. He's not subtle, my wolf. He's been howling for you since the moment we met. And what do you want? I whispered. The human part of you? Kyle was quiet for a long moment, his gaze intense. Finally, he reached out and took my hand, his touch sending electricity up my arm. I want you to be happy, free, safe. And if I'm being honest, if I'm being selfish, I want you to choose me. Not because of fate or bonds or supernatural obligation, but because you want to. Because the man I am, flaws and violence and all, is someone you could love. My breath caught. Love. We'd been dancing around the word, around the feeling, but neither of us had spoken it aloud. It felt too big, too fast, too impossible given everything else. But my wolf didn't think it was impossible. She knew exactly what she wanted, who she wanted, and increasingly, my human heart was beginning to agree. Kyle, I started, not sure what I wanted to say, only knowing I needed to say something. A howl pierced the night, long, urgent, filled with warning. Kyle was on his feet instantly, his body tense. That's a perimeter alarm. Someone's crossed into pack territory without permission. Another howl joined the first, then another. The pack was mobilizing. Stay here, Kale commanded, already moving toward the door. Lock it behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Garrett. Kale, wait. He turned back, crossed the room in 3 strides, and kissed me. Hard and desperate and claiming, his hand tangling in my hair while his other arm pulled me against him. The kiss lasted only seconds, but it seared through me like lightning, igniting every nerve ending. When he pulled back, his eyes were pure molten gold. I will come back to you, he said fiercely. I promise. Then he was gone, shifting mid-stride as he burst through the front door. I caught a glimpse of his massive wolf form, bigger than any I'd seen, pure black with those impossible golden eyes, before he disappeared into the forest. The howls continued, growing more urgent. I heard snarls, shouts, the sounds of conflict. And then Lily began to cry. I ran to her crib, scooped her up, my heart hammering. Through the window, I saw shapes moving in the darkness. Wolves, dozens of them, converging on the main lodge. This wasn't a perimeter breach. This was an invasion,